Hello, job seekers. This is Gary Hines with Career Strategy Forum, and it is February of 2026. And at some point, I'm going to let you guys know what sequence this podcast is, um, on the ones that I have done over the last year. So I started this podcast, Career Strategy Forum, back in January of 2025, and we're now in February of 2026, and I'm not even sure how many episodes we've done. Anyway, I will find that out. And next time we meet, I will list everything down. So anyway, for those listening on G Town Radio, this is WGGT LP 92.9 FM and at gtownradio.com. For those listening on YouTube or watching on YouTube, please like and subscribe and check the notification bell. For those on Spotify and Mixcloud, enjoy. And also, you can subscribe there too as well. All right. So I'm excited for the show today to tell you about a couple of things that's happening. First of all, effective this month of February of 2026, I am going to an hour-long format. I was doing 30 minutes, and now I'm doing 1 hour shows starting with this show that we're doing right now. So that means I'm going to have more time to expand on topics, maybe do double topics, maybe revisit some topics, interview people, and who knows, I might even play some music because, that's what I used to do. So anyway, I want to thank you for joining, but that's some new information coming in. That's exciting new news number one, and exciting new news number two is that in March, and the slated date is Saturday, March 14th at 9 a.m., I'm going to be interviewing State Representative Andre D. Carroll of the Legislative District 201 Legislative District here in the Northwest, which I believe includes Germantown, um, Nicetown, Logan, and maybe some parts of Albany. I'm not sure, but I know Germantown is in there. So anyway, I look forward to that. And we're going to be talking with a panel, some good friends and people that I've interviewed on this show, Regina Robinson and Lydia Henry, two business and workforce and education professionals. We're going to be talking to Andre about, what the constituents are saying as far as things like workforce development, job training, jobs in general, and also for business owners. There's a lot of small businesses up in the Northwest. And it's interesting because Andre's been profiling small businesses on his pages, and so we'd like to get some feedback about what they're telling him about what they need, how we can help them, that kind of thing. So anyway, more to come. You'll see on my socials and my advertising. And by the way, if you don't know, I do have an Instagram page under Gary Hines Consulting. I also have the Mixcloud, as I mentioned, and Spotify for creators. On Mixcloud and Spotify for creators, you would look for me under Career Strategy Forum, which is the name of this podcast. On Instagram, it's Gary Hines Consulting. I don't have a Facebook page anymore, but I do have a website, of course, GaryHinesConsulting.com. So that's all my stuff. All right. So let's get back to some information that I think is helpful. And as usual, I'm going to be referring to my notes, so I won't be staring directly into the camera all the time. But I want to cover some good information. I want to make sure I don't forget anything. So let's get started. So this first topic this week is networking for job seekers. And so a subtitle of that could be leveraging the people you know to meet the people you don't know to find opportunities. Okay. So again, that is kind of the gist of how we're going to do this. I'm going to quickly just talk about job search basics. And I've said this before, and periodically I'll say it again. But remember, in job search, you are the CEO of a company. And what is that company? It's you. It's me. Me Inc. is the company. And you're offering and selling your services to the employment market. So when you're in a job search, you should think of yourself as a company. And, what is the service or product I'm selling to the public? And the public is the employer or the potential employer. So think about it like that. And again, I'll just quickly talk about the job search process. So what services are you offering? is if you think about a graphic that kind of goes linear, what services are you offering? So you start thinking about your marketing materials. What are your marketing materials? Well, obviously it's your resume. And in this day and age, it's your LinkedIn profile. Then you're on an active, so the second bucket of that arrow is you're on an active job search. So you're advertising on various places, job boards, Reddit, some of these other platforms where you can post your resume and get your information out there. So you send resumes to potential companies. Those are like your proposals if you were a business owner and a company selling your product. And then of course you do networking online and offline to connect with those potential employers. And then finally on that last piece you have your interview, which is kind of like your sales call. So if you think about a company that makes a product and they're trying to sell it to a particular operation, say it's a retail operation, they have to have a sales call. They have to sell their product. You're doing the same thing. Okay. So I won't talk a whole lot about that. Maybe I'll come back to it at the end. But I wanted to just say, think of yourself as a company selling yourself, and you are the product. You are the service. Okay? Hope that makes sense. All right. What are the goals for this topic today? Well, we want to discuss what is networking, how to pay it forward, and networking 2.0. In other words, are there newer versions of networking in this day and age? What's out there and what's happening? So, what is networking? What is easy for you about networking? Has anybody out there been in a networking environment? Do you even know what it is as part of a job search? What is difficult about networking? What is traditional networking and how has networking changed? So again, it'd be interesting to find out from you guys, and you can certainly send me a note. What kind of networking experiences have you been in and were they successful? Did you make connections? Okay. So one of the most common misconceptions about networking is that unemployed people are not valuable networking contacts because they don't currently work at a company that can offer you a job. Well, this is the farthest thing from the truth. When you talk to somebody who's unemployed, that doesn't necessarily mean that they don't have connections, that they don't have people that they've worked with in the past, or somebody within their networks that they can refer you to. So, again, networking can happen with anyone and it can certainly happen anywhere. Okay. So it's all about perspective. So let's look at this as sort of a two-column situation. On one side, you have people that really hate networking, that they don't want to do it, and here's some of the things and some of the reasons why. So they think it's a necessary evil, so they don't look at it positively at all. They feel inauthentic while doing it. They do it less often and they consider it a chore. So, any job coach will tell you you've got to network in today's world to find connections, to find opportunities. So it may be uncomfortable, but you got to do it in some form. Uh, a quote here is that somebody that doesn't really like to network may say, I hate these kinds of events. I'm going to have to put on a show and schmooze and pretend to like it. Well, that's, the pessimist of a person who might be at a networking event. Now, on the opposite side of that, a person who really is into networking, who enjoys it, may think of it as a promotion, or they feel that it's a promotional event. So they're excited. They have curiosity. They have an open mind about the possibilities that might unfold. And it's also an opportunity for discovery and learning. So they look at it completely different on the optimistic side, the glass half empty, glass half full side. So they may make a quote something like this. Who knows? It could be interesting. Sometimes when you least expect it, you have a conversation that brings up new ideas and leads to new experiences and opportunities. Well, again, so networking is all about perspective. What side do you think you fall on? Okay. And then we talk a little bit about, we bring in something called pay it forward. Pay it forward is an expression for describing the beneficiary of a good deed, repaying it to others instead of to the original benefactor. So in other words, you pay it forward. Somebody did something good for you and you now would do something good for somebody else. So that's, paying, opportunity, paying leads, paying whatever it is forward to somebody else in some form or fashion. So again, paying it forward networking is about promoting yourself, is about promoting yourself versus helping others. So you try to minimize the I and maximize the you. So this saying relates to the idea that you will probably get more responses if you show that you're interested in the other person as well. So if you can say to the other person, hey, yes, I'm in the job market, I'm looking for work, but what about you? What are you doing too? So somewhere in the conversation, we'll talk more about this, you need to be telling the other person that you're networking with that you're willing to help them as well. So this is also called pay it forward. Okay, so the secret to successful networking, how can I help you? You can make more friends in 2 months by becoming interested in other people than you can in 2 years by trying to get other people interested in you. Not my quote, Dale Carnegie. Okay, there is one great secret about being a good networker. Good networkers are always focused on how they can help others. This may seem basic and simple, but most people don't know this networking law and even fewer practice it. So there will be many situations during job search where you will be asking people to support you in finding opportunities. You may be meeting them for coffee or at some networking event where you hope to get information about job openings or other people you may want to speak with. It will seem that you are asking other people to help you, and you are. However, your basic attitude should be, how can I help this person as well? With this in mind, never end a networking meeting without asking the other person, how can I help you? Okay. Successful network. Okay, so I have a graphic that most people won't be able to see, but I can certainly send it to you and share it with you if you want to see this. But this is something I want to talk about called weak ties provide the strongest help. So when we talk about ties, like close ties, distant ties to people. So in landing a job, weak tie acquaintances are often more important than strong tie contacts because weak ties give us access to social networks where we don't otherwise belong. Now, I know that sounds like a little crazy, but think about it like this. So if you draw a graphic with you in the middle and then all your contacts out there in the world. So you have your relatives, you have your friends, you have your family, you have your coworkers, and then you have other contacts that are just out there, just acquaintances. So think about that and just keep that in mind. Many of the people learn about new job opportunities through weak ties rather than from close friends, which makes sense because we talk to our close friends all the time or work alongside them or read the same blogs or social media posts. By the time they have heard about a new opportunity, we probably know about it too. On the other hand, our weak tie acquaintances, the people we bump into every 6 months, are the ones who tell us about jobs we would otherwise never hear about. So, somebody you don't see often, that you don't talk to often, if you get together and have coffee with them and do a catch up, they may be able to connect you with people that you wouldn't ordinarily see or be in part of your circle. Most job seekers quickly connect with strong tie connections, and when there are no job opportunities, they feel they have hit a wall and they stop networking. This is a mistake. Getting to the next level, weak ties, is the goal. So trying to find those weak ties, friends of friends, acquaintances of acquaintances. So while networking, it is easy to connect with strong tie contacts because we are comfortable with them and we know that they will not reject a request to get together or try to help us out. The challenge is to break through into the weak tie contacts and then build that network. So again, it's just like spreads out, starts here, spreads out to those weak ties, people that you don't see often, people you kind of know, you've seen before somewhere, but you don't really know them. So building your weak tie networks can be done by asking strong tie connections to refer you to their contacts. Uh, Ask people, I always tell people to do this. I say, listen, take a look at my LinkedIn profile and all the connections I have there. If you see anybody on there, and you can filter in LinkedIn, if you see anybody on there that excites you or interests you, or maybe works at a company that you're interested in, let me know and then I can do an introduction. So that's one way to connect with sort of a taking somebody from a strong tie to connecting them to somebody that might be considered a weak tie. So again, you can always sort and do these different things, and LinkedIn's a great tool for that. You can also do things through social networking and attending networking events, and we'll talk about networking events and where they happen and how to address that. Okay. So the question now becomes, where do I find some networking opportunities? So you can think about the following. So maybe there's industry and trade groups. If you are an accountant, there's probably an accountant group on LinkedIn. If you are a sales clerk, there's probably a sales clerk group on social media. So think about industry and trade groups, and there's directories that can help you find these different trade groups. Think about SHRM. SHRM is the Society for Human Resource Managers, and it's for HR professionals. So, if that's the field you're in, you might want to go to SHRM and see what they have as far as networking goes. There's AICPA for CPAs. There's the Bar Association for legal professionals, and so forth and so on. Medical has its own associations. Manufacturing has its own associations. So there's opportunities through industry and trade groups to network. Then there's government organizations, of course. There's the local chamber of commerce. There's the economic development councils, industry partnerships, incubators, developing industries. There's so many of these sort of workspaces now, industrial workspaces. Um, co-working space. That's what I'm looking for. Co-working spaces where you can go in and meet people, just walk through the office and say, everybody has their own little cubicle or their own desk space. You can find out what business they're in. What do they do? Would they like to get together and share ideas or information? So there's a way to do that. And of course, there's social gatherings and volunteer opportunities, churches, community colleges, libraries, Main Street organizations. Hey, even in the grocery line. You can network in the grocery line, waiting to be called at the bank. Uh, 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 you know, there's just so many places now that you can network, just standing on the corner, but, you have to be professional about it, obviously, because in today's world, a lot of people are a little leery if you just come up and start talking to them. All right. So when networking, be yourself, trying to anticipate what will impress others increases your anxiety and makes you feel inauthentic. So again, you have to really be who you are. You got to put on a certain amount of, presentation, but you really want to let your personality shine through. Don't adjust your behavior to others. Focus on things about yourself that you want to highlight. If you're really good at something, if you know that you are good at something, if you have a certification in something, you definitely want to emphasize that or talk about that. But you don't want, again, think about what I said earlier. You don't want to make it all about yourself. You also want to talk, about and ask questions about what they do as well. So ask questions you are generally interested in. Don't worry about projecting an image. Feeling at ease projects a good impression. So the biggest key about networking is really being yourself. Okay. So here's something called a classic networking approach. This approach is appropriate for events, specifically aimed at lead generation or pure networking. So a classic approach is where you would have your business cards, you would have your elevator speech together, you would know your strengths, what you're looking for, specifically think who, what, where, when, why, and how. Think about that as a classic approach. So, if you don't have an elevator speech, you should have one memorized. And again, that can always change and be edited depending on the audience or the people you're talking to. So, for instance, starting off with something like, hey, I'm a 15-year experienced accountant and I'm looking for an opportunity. I'm looking for new opportunities. I'd like to meet someone at Arthur Anderson or Towers Watson companies to connect. I'm also open to connecting with you on LinkedIn or Instagram. What are you looking for? How can I help? This is really off the top of my head, but this is some kind of opening. This is almost like an opening paragraph that you could say at an event. So when networking, as I said, be yourself. Other events is how the person can help. So can they hire you? Maybe they're actually in the hiring division of the company, or at some company. Can they reference you? Can they refer you to somebody? So be clear, pleasant, engaging, and respectful. In a lot of situations, this may not be true in today's world, but you would wear your name tag. And a lot of networking events, they will give you name tags. Some will give you name tags based on your industry. And then you have your business cards on the right. And one thing I want to say about business cards is that a lot of times they are electronic. People will share on the phone instead of having a physical business card. I like to do both, but some people are more comfortable these days with just sharing information on the phone. Let's exchange contacts. Okay. So there's free templates. If you want to make a business card, there are free templates all through Microsoft Word and online at some of these other companies like Glassdoor. There's templates that make these kind of things. So a lot of times people exchange, as I said, electronic business cards. Some people use QR codes now that's on their phone. They say, scan my phone, you'll get my website, you'll get my email, you'll get my bio, that kind of thing. So, okay, so business cards are critical. Well, they're not, in one form or another, paper or electronic. So networking 2.0, this approach is better for those who find classic networking intimidating or at events not specifically geared toward pure networking. So you can have some conversation starters, you observe, don't interrupt, give undivided attention, be helpful, not boastful, write notes on the back of cards if you do get one. So, these type of networking events are maybe not quite as formal, but they could be something like a speaker series. Local colleges sometimes offer or chambers offer free, lunch and learn type events where you can go and it's not specifically there to network, but you can certainly network there. So think about that. So maybe there's a presentation where there's an audience of people that you don't know and you learn how to introduce yourself. And we'll talk about, some of that in a minute. Remember to ask permission if you can follow up. Would you like to get together for coffee? Can we connect on LinkedIn? Do you have what's the best way to contact you? So end with a high note and a thanks, encouraging like as I said, linking up on, the professional social media platform, LinkedIn. Some people use Alignable. I'm not as familiar with Alignable, but that's another program that's out there. Okay. Um, I want to talk quickly about volunteering as a networking opportunity. Choose a volunteering opportunity that leverages and showcases your talents. Try to avoid in the trenches positions and focus on positions that build connections. So, if you're into accounting, you may want to volunteer at an accounting firm and see if they have any possibilities. A non paid volunteer position where you can get your feet in the door and kind of show them that you're interested in the position, that kind of thing. So you want to limit those kind of commitments in volunteer time. Don't make volunteering a full-time job. Let your volunteers peers know that you are in transition and give a clear indication of what you are looking for. So you can apply all of those kind of things there. If you want to be a front desk receptionist, a greeter, a setup and breakdown person at an event, there's a lot of volunteer opportunities out there, churches. And, again, this is all part of connecting with people and networking, meeting people that you don't know. And I'm not saying to not work with people that you do know, but I'm just saying that meeting people that you don't know it broadens your network of people and connections. Okay. So some industry folks will say, if you're job seeking, you're currently unemployed, it's good to do about 3 to 5 networking events a week if you can. Now, you may have commitments at home, you may have other things going on, so it's not always going to be as easy to do that. So I would say, as much as you can network. Are you networking enough? Your rule of thumb is 3 to 5 networking events every week, and a networking event consists of a person to person live connection, which can be an individual meeting or a group meeting. This can include a telephone call, but not an email exchange. Emails are too impersonal. And also, today's world, Zoom is also a platform that folks are using for networking. So I want to tell you that there's an organization called My Career Transitions in Malvern, Pennsylvania, which is run by Penn State. Penn State Great Valley holds a monthly meeting for free for professionals who are in transition. mycareertransitions.com. I believe it's .com or .org. But anyway, that is one place that you can certainly look and check out. Meetup.com, eventbrite.com. Of course, as I mentioned, LinkedIn has groups that talk about, and there's also, I'm sure, a tab for networking, Facebook, Instagram. And even though I don't use it, people tell me that there's networking opportunities on TikTok. So, you can go there as well. So Temple, Penn, and locally in Philadelphia area, Temple, Penn, Drexel, St. Joe's, LaSalle, Lincoln University, Cheney University, Community College of Philadelphia, Montgomery County Community College. All of these, you should go to their websites and find out when are they holding open houses? When are they holding forums or some kind of public event where you can go and take your cards? And if sometimes at these events, they'll do a round the room kind of thing. Introduce yourself. Who are you? Hi, my name is Gary. I'm currently in career transition right now. I'm an accountant and I'm looking for work in the seat as a CPA for a big firm that's locally, settled or locally headquartered, like in this area. Um, and then there's some things you can do online just through a Google search or through ChatGPT, or some other AI platform. Trade associations, as I mentioned, do a search for them. Professional associations, networking events for whatever profession near me, community events near you. So again, meetup.com is a great one because they offer you can key right in job interviewing or job search, job professionals, career transitioners, job seekers. There's so many ways you can search through, and they'll take you to if there's a group or if there's a event happening in your particular area, and then you can attend. So okay. So I hope this has been helpful. Just a short recap. Networking is a key component to finding a job. Networking is not using people, it's helping people. It's best to use multiple methods to build a network, like the ones I just mentioned. One should network even when not looking for a job. This is something too that I was told years ago. Even when you're new at a job, even when you've been in a job and you're happy, you should always be networking because you just don't know when things could change. Okay? Be aware of how the following can be used in networking: job fairs, industry trade events, nonprofit organizations, volunteer opportunities, online networking. Actively monitor your online presence and keep it clean. Pay it forward is a good way to focus on networking and how to do it. So, those are some quick tips and techniques about networking. As a job seeker, you need to do it. Everybody needs to do it. And, so take some advantage of that. So again, just to let folks know, if you want to reach me to talk directly, I'm Gary at GaryHinesConsulting.com. I have my website, GaryHinesConsulting.com. I am also doing this podcast, which broadcasts on the second and fourth Saturday of each month from 9 a.m. to 10 a.m., my new time, on G-Town Radio, which is WGGT-LP 92.9 FM. And that is only broadcast on Wednesdays through Sundays in the Philadelphia area. But you can listen to my show anytime or any of the other shows on G-Town Radio at gtownradio.com. Anytime, 24/7. Okay, as I mentioned, Spotify, Mixcloud, YouTube. Okay, that's all my stuff. All right. Okay. Hope you guys are enjoying this conversation. Again, I'd like to hit some feedback. I plan this year in 2026 to do a little bit more promotion of myself and my shows and the work that I've been doing. I've been a career coach for more than 10 years, 15 years approximately, but I've been in workforce development and training forever. And, I did a couple of videos. One of the first ones I did last year was to talk about me and my background and kind of what led me to where I am today. But as mentioned on my next show, I'm going to spend some time recapping all the previous lessons I had around resume writing, LinkedIn profiles, elevator speeches, professional bios, all the things that I've already talked about. I'm going to recap them and I'm going to make sure that they are in sequence and in order. So when you go to search for them on any of my platforms, you'll find them. Okay. Hope that makes sense. All right. So I am now going to switch gears a little bit to using recruiters to land jobs. If you're in the job market, I would not rule out using recruiters or staffing agencies. They can only help. The more opportunities you have, because, you just can't sit on the computer all day long on Monster looking for jobs. I mean, that's part of it. Networking is part of it, but you also have an opportunity to use and work with recruiters who can be very beneficial and valuable. So if you've used a recruiter or staffing agent before, tell me what it was like. Send me a note in the comments if you're on any of my platforms. Just tell me what was that experience. So anyway, this is part 2 of my new hour-long program. So bear with me here. The goals here are going to be to understand the different types of recruiters, know what to expect from recruiters, learn how to use recruiters in your job search. Okay. And we already talked about being the CEO of your own company at the beginning of this podcast. And I told you about the different buckets you should go through. But just remember, when you're in active job search, once a person is clear about the services they offer, they do what any company does, they sell their services. Just keep that in mind. It's very, very critical. And one thing I'll say about interviews, an interview is basically a sales call where a job seeker gets to present their match with the position requirements and why they are the best choice for the position. It is like any other sales call where the salesperson knows their services and knows what they want to tell the prospect. Job candidates cannot be passive. Like a salesperson, they need to be active in communicating what they want the interviewer to know. Keep that in mind. And with that, I'll walk right into to recruiting. So recruiters don't work for you. Okay? They don't work for you. The clients of recruiters are employers, not job seekers. A recruiter will be delighted to work with a job seeker if they meet the specifications of a current assignment to fill a position for an employer. So again, these are things that are critical for you to understand. They're looking to fill a position or positions that they know about. Okay, they're not looking to get you a job so much as to fill an open position. Got to think about it that way. Who pays recruiters? Employers pay recruiters always. As a job seeker, you don't have to pay a fee to apply through a recruitment or staffing firm. They are paid by the companies seeking employees. Some recruiters charge the company a flat fee, and others charge a percentage of the new employee's annual salary. Staffing firms don't usually require upfront payment. Instead, they take a portion of what the company pays for for you as a temporary employee. For example, the staffing firm may charge the company $20 per hour for your work, but only pay you $10 per hour, keeping the balance. Knowing that the staffing firm keeps some of the hourly wage gives you the power to negotiate what you bring home per hour. It doesn't always work this way, but it's definitely worth asking about a higher hourly rates. Again, there's recruiters that do various types of things, but you should never have to pay a fee unless you're hiring a headhunter, which is different altogether. So the types of recruiters, there's internal or corporate recruiters, and then there's external recruiters such as contingency or retained recruiters, and then there's staffing agencies. Okay, so staffing and recruiting companies are used to hire candidates for a particular role. Staffing agencies commonly fill short-term roles or hire people for specific projects. It's a quick process. Corporate recruiters generally exist within the HR departments and often come from a human resource background rather than a recruiting background. So corporate recruiters work directly for one company or firm. Big companies like Comcast, Amazon, other places that are just gigantic, these people that recruit go out and do recruiting specifically for that company. Other recruiters work for several companies. Okay. External recruiters operate as much in a sales function as they do in a human resource function. Agency recruiters are typically hungrier and typically have more experience negotiating and closing deals. Okay, recruiting tends to be used when hiring permanent employees. It's harder to find a person who has good qualifications and is a good fit. Staffing agencies will generally work with those who are seeking jobs. Recruiting firms deal with those who are seeking jobs as well as those who are not. This is commonly referred to as active clients or active candidates and passive candidates. Okay. So, internal recruiters. Internal recruiters typically have greater technical knowledge for the relevant roles than an outside agency recruiter would have. Think hospital positions or admin positions. Internal recruiters will be able to articulate and respond to questions about what it's really like to work in that company in a way that external recruiters would not be able to do. Okay, so these corporate recruiters work in a way to promote the company brand and deliver a level of professionalism and responsiveness throughout the interview process. But they are employees who can draw out the hiring process or adjust the job requirements if they are not finding suitable candidates. If you don't hire a lot of people each year, it might not be worth having in-house recruitment staff. Agency recruiters may be a more cost-effective solution. So all companies don't use in-house recruiters. Some will farm that out to third parties like staffing agencies because they just don't have the manpower and they just don't have the budget. But they can do a one-time, hey, we need 5 people in accounting, we need 5 people in manufacturing. Let's use this firm for 6 months and then we're done with them. Okay, no benefits, outside contract work. Agency recruiters receive multiple new requests each day from a wide variety of clients, therefore may not be as knowledgeable of the position details. They operate in a highly competitive environment and accumulate contacts of active and passive candidates for nurturing and networking. They have larger applicant pools to pull from. Agency recruiters can be measured based on the client feedback and the number of times roles have to be refilled at no charge to the client, which can happen if the wrong hire is made. So sometimes recruiters send a person that doesn't work out, and then they're still under contract because the person has to be in the position for, say, 6 months to a year. If they quit after 2 or 3 weeks, then the agency may still be on the hook to find somebody else for this company. I know that sounds a little complicated, but just know that that can be the possibilities, and you should find that information out up front when you're looking at and investigating recruiting people. So they have to find a way to or create a way to fill a position in a way that pleases the hiring manager, or the staff or the recruiter won't get paid. You know, it's all about filling in seats. So contingency recruiters, it's a no win, no fee. Contingency recruiters are paid contingent upon the successful filling of a position. They basically work for free until a client company hires a presented candidate. This is kind of common as well. Something else you should think about and ask up front. Are you working for free until I get to somebody gets hired? Or, they may not want to share that information, but it's worth asking. So contingency recruiters are typically more interested in easy to fill positions like entry level positions. Generally, if you're in the 25 to 85K salary range, you'll work with contingency recruiters. Retained recruiters are paid partially or fully up front before initiating a search assignment. So if you're in the $85,000 to $200,000 range in salary, typically engage in a mixture of contingency and retained. And if you're above 200,000 salary range, go mainly with retained. So these are like higher end positions. They're paid again fully upfront by the company to initiate the search. And again, high level position. Recruiters provide benefits. So one of the beauties and the benefits of them is that you stand out from other applicants. You have a recruiter's endorsement. They get to know you. They interview, they talk to you, they find out your strengths, your weaknesses, your desires, all of that stuff. A recruiter presents you with positive remarks better than just a resume. So they're like the middleman. So the recruiter can say, listen, company X, Y, and Z. I have Mary Smith here. Mary Smith is a go-getter. She's a self-starter. She's worked on teams. She's got a great spirit. She's a local person. She grew up in this area. They can do a lot of legwork and a lot of pre-sale before you even get to the interview. Okay. So a company commitment. A company is investing money in hiring you. So the recruiters, again, one of the reasons they provide benefits is that the company is using a recruiter because they're committed to finding somebody really to fit that spot. So as I say to a lot of people, it's a good idea to have a good relationship with a recruiter, a good attitude, willing to go on interviews, etc. Remember, you don't have to take the job that they suggest, but many of them are trying to get paid. So a successful hire means money in their pockets. So, I said that earlier about how some of these recruiters won't get paid until they fill the position. But again, you may be put top of the list if you're willing to go on interviews. And if you have good reason why, for instance, you get offered a position that you don't really want, and you don't take it, you have a good explanation to the recruiter, so they'll keep working with you. A lot of times people will say, well, I didn't like that position, and then the recruiter might get a negative, feeling about them and say, okay, I'm not going to work as much with this person because they're going to be hard to please. So it's a delicate balance. It's like a dance, like a lot of things in business and in job search, you know, trying to feel out the recruiter and see where they work with you. Do they understand why you didn't particularly like that position? Again, it's something you got to use your personality on. Okay, recruiters provide benefits. Many jobs are given as confidential to search firms. Interview preparation, including information about the interviewers. So the recruiter can also tell you who's going to be interviewing you and maybe what their personality is like, what the company culture is like. They can give you some inside baseball on the company before you step foot in the door or before you talk to anybody. You can also get help with negotiating compensation. Is this company really strict on their offers? Are they negotiable? Are they comparable to other companies offering the same positions, as far as their salary goes? So again, think about recruiters as like an information channel. You want to pull as much information about the company from these recruiters as you can. Because remember, as I say this all the time, you are interviewing a company just as much as the company is interviewing you. You have to like the company. You have to be comfortable with what they're giving you or saying to you. So again, it's a two-way thing. But think about a recruiter as like having a career coach work with you, but you are probably not the only client that they have. So you might want to look for recruiters that specialize in your field. Um, there's something called iRecruit, I-RECRUIT.com, and these will give you a directory of recruiters based on your industry. So if you're in retail, if you're in manufacturing, if you're in IT, these recruiters, and usually they're nationwide, excuse me, but you probably could even find some that are more local to your area. There's also something called career partners that will affiliate you with a few recruiters. When you get a new job, update your resume and send it to your affiliated recruiters. So affiliated recruiters, um, they kind of get paid to be part of a group of recruiters that are around. So, they could be like a pool of recruiters that you work with. Because most recruiters specialize in specific industries and job functions, you will likely have the most productive relationships with recruiters specializing in your field or job function. So, as I mentioned, that iRecruit.com, also known as Oya's Recruiter Directory, lists recruiters by industry and specialty as well as geographic location. So I would start there as well. Working with the recruiter, you want to be honest and upfront with them, open about your career goals, your salary interests and levels, because you may work with them and they say, listen, this company's only paying X, Y, and X amount of dollars, but you said you need to make a minimum of X, dollars. So this isn't going to work. Or at least these companies are going to work for you. So I'm not even bothering calling you because even though it's in your field, they're not paying what you want. So, again, you got to work with them. You got to negotiate with them. You got to talk to them. You got to be flexible, certainly be, open to discussion, but be prepared to put on a positive spin on your unemployment. So if you're unemployed right now, you want to put on a positive spin about that. And I'll talk about that in a minute. And you also want to tailor your communication to your recruiter's preferences. Some recruiters may want to do email primarily, less phone talk. Some recruiters might want to see you in person to assess how you interview and do your body language. So be prepared to put a positive spin. Back to the unemployment piece. Be prepared to put a positive spin if you're unemployed. Why are you unemployed? Unemployment is a red flag for some recruiters. To some extent, you can combat this bias by against the unemployed by engaging in productive, resume-worthy activities while out of work, such as consulting, project work, volunteering, professional development, taking courses. It won't always work, but it's better than not addressing your unemployment status. So again, it's a sad thing to say, but some employers look at somebody that's completely unemployed as a risk. Why are you unemployed? Did you get laid off? Did you quit? Did you get fired? They need to have an explanation. And then, the thing is, if it's been a certain amount of time, if you're re-entering the job market, what were you doing? Okay. Raising a family, taking care of sick parents, learning a new skill, upgrading technology skills. All of these things could be very helpful. So again, you want to tailor your communication to the recruiter's preferences. Check with the recruiting firms you contact for their resume and cover letter preferences. Maybe they want it submitted a certain way. You can often find this information on their websites. Also determine how they want to submit these materials. Stay in touch periodically, but don't be a pest. An initial follow-up call after you submit your materials and 1 to 2 weeks later is a good rule of thumb. Remember, as I said earlier, you may not be the only person that they're working with. They can't spend 24/7 with you. So you got to be, diplomatic about it. You got to be strategic about how you communicate with the okay, make it easy for recruiters to find you. When a recruiter calls, ask key questions to decide whether you want to work with them. Who is the employer? Are you employed in the HR department of the employer whose job you're trying to fill? Or are you a third party? Can you give me proof you are authorized to recruit for the employer? Folks, there's a lot of scams going on out there. Unfortunately, that's the world we live in. But make it easy for recruiters to find you. So you can do things like write articles, take on big projects, give presentations, be active in trade and professional associations, serve as an expert source for a media contact, be active in your community, serve as a guest lecturer or an adjunct professor. So these are some things that you can do that recruiters may seek you out as well. And a lot of this is done online these days through social media, including LinkedIn and other places. So again, if you want to ask some more questions about this recruiter as you're sort of interviewing whether you want to work with this recruiter, what recruiting firm they represent, what is their experience in that industry, what do they know about that industry, inquire what is their process. You might want to conduct research, including among members of your own network, or get a feel for the recruiter's reputation and decide whether to proceed with this recruiter. Note whether the recruiter is a good listener. He or she is not working for you, but you do need the recruiter to understand your needs and desires. Again, that delicate dance, that balance. Ask what company the recruiter is recruiting for and the hiring manager's name. If they have all of that, they may or may not. Once you are in the process of working with the recruiter and interviewing with the client, the client employer, don't contact the employer directly. Don't back out of your commitments once you have agreed to be a candidate. Trust the recruiter. Let the recruiter negotiate your compensation package. I have a little thought on that. You should work with the recruiter very, very carefully on that piece, because if you have specific salary or benefit needs, you want to make sure the recruiter is talking that up when they're talking, because a lot of them can get the initial offer, or at least the range of what the salary and the benefits are. So let the recruiter do that to some degree, but you participate. Serve as a resource to recruiters after you have the job. Don't contact the employer, as I said, directly. Um, if you do that, it is tantamount to going over the recruiter's head. Trust your recruiter to see you through the process. Again, backing out of commitments. Be sure you're willing to see the process through. Don't toy with the recruiter if you're not serious about pursuing this opportunity. You will quickly fail out of the recruiter's good graces if you back out. Say just as the employer makes an offer, you back out. Trust the recruiter. In most cases, the recruiter has the experience and wisdom to give you the best advice as you work through your interactions with the client employer. It's not a good idea to argue with or antagonize the recruiter. Who wants to have a bad relationship with the recruiter who's trying to find them a job? Not only can you discuss your compensation package with your recruiter and get his or her advice, but the recruiter can present your request to the employer and they can say, hey, they're willing to talk or negotiate, or you're way out of line with what they're offering. And then again, being a good resource for recruiters. One of the best ways to ensure a productive relationship with recruiters long into your career is to help them out by recommending top performing friends and members of your network, because they need to keep their business going. Okay. In interviewing, recruitment firms generally conduct the first and sometimes second round of interviews. They narrow down the field to 2 or 3 great candidates, and the final round of interviews would be company representatives. So they are acting as the initial interviewers. They know what the company is looking for and will forward you only if they think you are a good fit. Staffing firms make sure candidates have the needed skill sets requested by a company, then send over temporary employees who match. Usually, staffing firms require proficiency tests in software programs such as Word or Excel, and then they rank your skills. They may ask you to do a presentation. They may ask you to do a math problem, depending on your field. The higher you rank, the more staffing firm can charge for your skills to the employer so they get paid. And staffing firms usually keep a list of available workers on hand so they can fill employment needs immediately. It's like the pre-interview work. This saves the company time and resources if somebody outside the company can do this, because pre-screening people and going through all that is too much sometimes for companies. Um, so some staffing agencies have full-time work, some have temporary work, some have temporary to hire or temp to perm is sometimes called. Some have contract work where it begins and ends at a certain time. Same thing with project. So um, yeah, so there's different type of agencies. You have to really do your research. Um, and some other strategies, you may want to submit resumes to multiple firms, but not too many. Go to interviews with agency recruiters. You represent the agency and press the recruiter, they will refer you. Let staffing agency know if you have already applied for a job to which they may refer you, or you've already worked with that company in some capacity. Expect to be tested for skills and be sure to play nice. Okay. You represent the agency at their client. It's important to represent them well. Working with a few agencies increases your chance of placement, but don't work with too many. 2 or 3 is good. Good staffing agency recruiters want to meet you so they can know you better and more than just your resume. So an in-person meeting is probably critical. At the least, it's an online meeting. And again, you want these staffing agencies to know if you have been already applying for jobs without their knowledge. They should know if you're doing things, without them. They should know that as well. Okay. So using recruiters is a key thing to job search. It's an important component, as is face-to-face events, networking, applying online. There's many ways to do it. Okay, so I hope this has been helpful. Again, contact me for any direct questions. If you are on YouTube, please subscribe. If you're on Mixcloud and Spotify, subscribe to me also. Check out my website, my Instagram, and all that good stuff. All right. So I will be back in a couple of weeks with some more information. Not quite sure what I'm going to cover on the next topic, but I am, as I mentioned, going to list all of the podcasts that I've done since January of 2025, all the topics, all the interviews. And by the way, I am going to be increasing my interview process. This thing I'm doing next month that I just gave you a teaser on with State Representative Andre Carroll is sort of the beginning. I've already done a couple of interviews last year, and I'll list those down, on my chronological list. But I'm going to be probably doing more of that too. Community based. Folks that are doing stuff out there, all that good stuff. Okay. I look forward to talking to you all. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next time. Hi, Gary Hines here again. Thanks again for tuning into Career Strategy Forum and my new format. Again, we are broadcasting the second and fourth Saturday of each month from 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. on G-Town Radio, WGGT-LP 92.9 FM, and always online at gtownradio.com. As I mentioned, you can find this recording, this podcast, and others on my Spotify for Creators page, on my Mixcloud page, and also on my website, GaryHinesConsulting.com. So, what I wanted to say here right now is that if you are a job seeker, I have a free online job placement training program that I'd like to offer to you for free. So that would be a 46 lesson uh, program that I would, it's self paced. You take yourself through it. You get a certificate of completion at the end. And again, there's no fee right now for this limited time. Ordinarily, I charge $6.99 for this course, but I'm offering it for you today for free. And again, limited time offer, so act quickly. If you're interested, uh, you can contact me, Gary at GaryHinesConsulting.com, and we can go from there. The only piece of this that's required of you beyond completing the course is to give me good quality feedback on the course, how you experienced it, what you liked, what you didn't like, what you would change, what you would like to see more of. I'm in the process now of editing that course and trying to change it to the customer's needs. So again, free online training course for job seekers, all about job preparation, how to get ready for it, and how to go out there and get that job that you love and deserve. Okay, again, contact me. Gary at GaryHinesConsulting.com is the best way to get in touch with me. Thanks again, and I'll see you next time with another edition of Career Strategy Forum. Thanks.